this is your first time here, what we're doing is we're like systematically going through authors, learning their BOLOs, like what books of theirs should we be especially looking out for. And then also, like, if we're in a situation where we can't take all the books and we need to take, a certain few, we have to make value judgments in that situation. And this is a nice way to kind of, just another data point to assess it. It's not meant to be like the end all. Obviously, it depends on the actual book in question, condition issues, all of the different things. But for me, selfishly, I started doing this because I source in the Goodwill bins a lot, and it's total chaos, and you got a lot of people in there scanning. Book fairs, a lot of the times, they're full of people with the little scanners. You can kind of see them on their hand. They'll go beep, 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 and they'll run down the line of books, and then every once in a while, you'll hear a cha-ching, and that means they found a good one. So when you go to the bin, you got to be faster than those folks sometimes. And again, I'm a firm believer in the human condition. I really don't think there's anything that's ever going to be faster than an equipped brain and the human eye. And so when I started making this list, I figured, it'd be a good kind of conversation to have. And then also on here, especially because we're all book people, whether you're a book seller, a book collector, a book hobbyist, or whatever. I mean, you're in here looking at book shit. Cool. Thank you for picking that up, Cassie. So that's the goal. So I figured more people could find this useful. And I've always kind of treated Whatnot more like a Twitch show anyway. So figured I might as well commit. So let's get into it. The first one I think we'll do is Jan Karen. I've been selling quite a bit of her recently, and looking at here is Terapeak in the back end of eBay. Speaking of eBay, I am actually trying to move off of eBay and make Whatnot like my full-time home, just like go full Monty here. So we invented a show title called Power Hour. I'm not going to lie, I totally stole this idea from somebody in the comic category. There's a dude in the comic category that sells gold key comics, like really old comics, and he does a power like lunch hour. He does 12 books in 12 minutes at 12. is what he does. And he literally hops on. He's got 12 books in there. And they're nice books. He brings the heat. And so I'm kind of stealing that idea, and I figure I've got so many listings on eBay that it's going to take forever that I figure it's one of those situations where you have to kind of eat the elephant one bite at a time, which I know sounds really weird, but that is a saying. So what this is, like I've been saying, is authors sell-through rates, and kind of what we're doing is to compile the information is we're taking the 90-day sell-through rate that we find on Terapeak in both the book category and the antiquarian collectible category. And we're kind of, we're making, and then we're taking the number of listings, and that's kind of how we're getting the data. And I'll show you that as soon as that Terapeak opens up. But, and then we kind of do an analysis of what we think is going on in the secondhand market with that particular author. Right. And then we try to check out the BOLOs, but this has to work for us to do that. But that's all right. So in my world, I would say anything probably over 15%, if you can get it super cheap or free, is probably worth. It won't sit terribly long. Again, all books, like I always have to preface this with, we try to save all of the books. But I'm just the math is what the math is, right? So at 15%, you got like folks like Hemingway, Jan Karen. I guess she's already on there. We need to just fill in her listings. And Rick Riordan and things like that. But then you also have to take other things into consider. Let me make this bigger so you guys can see it. But the sell-through rate doesn't tell the whole story. So, and this I think is kind of like even a good object lesson in databases and stats in general. Because R.L. Stine is Goosebumps, right? But the sell-through rate is only 3%. But let me ask you, book flippers, book resellers, book collectors, do we not pick up Goosebumps books like all of the time? And do we ever have a problem like moving them on? Not really, right? So what is that 3% sell-through rate about? Because it was accurate. We checked it several times. The issue is that number of prints, like 34,000 is a lot of listings comparative to say, like Brandon Sanderson, who, fantasy author, finished up the Wheel of Time series, only has 6,000 listings, so it's 5 times more, the entire Goosebumps series. But when you start looking at the BOLOs and whatnot, you quickly realize that a lot of the, the commons, you know what I'm saying? Like commons, uncommons, and rares. A lot of the common Goosebump books don't get sold. You know what I mean? Because there's just so many of them. But the really, like the collectible ones, the ones that still have like the bookmark and the card and stuff in them, they get snapped up like that. So on Jan Karen, 6,300 listings, which is about what we'd expect, I think, for her. She did the Mitford series, the Mitford novels. Let's go over in all categories. That's probably all right to be in all categories. It's probably not going to skew the numbers. Well, let's check. Apply. It might. Enough. Let's call it 5,500. Again, we don't have to be like super exact. Oh, where'd she go? Control F. Karen. Here we go. So about 5,000 listings. So like, as far as I'm concerned, like she's perfectly fine. She's, decently. This is not bad. So that means for every, 5,000 listings go up, about 15% of those listings go out. Which isn't terrible. I mean, they're moving. They're not Stephen King, which is really only this is a really good baseline, because I think Stephen King is one of those authors that, have a good chunk of older books, and the dude is still writing. Like, I just was in Target the other day and saw, picking up a prescription, saw one of his books that just came out. The guy's still out there pulling it. So, and he's selling about 20%, and I would never not pick up a Stephen King. So anything that's probably around that sell through, as long as there's nothing weird going on, like under the hood or in the number, you pick it up. So what I'm saying, so when you see people like Lucy Score, who I just learned about last week, and Robert Jordan and Brandon Sanderson and Carissa Broadbent, who has like one series out, I guess, and it's like crazy expensive. I think Cassie's got the first one, right? And then Colleen Hoover's at 46%. Let's look up her. Let's look up Colleen Hoover's, how many listings she has. Colleen Hoover, probably newer stuff. So she's got almost 11,000 listings. So think about in context of Jan Karen. So Jan Karen's selling at 19% with 5,000 listings. So Colleen Hoover has twice as many books online and is selling at 3 times the rate. So she's smoking hot. And I'm sure she's still writing, right? And then Frida, we only found 34 listings for Frida on the secondhand market. Apparently she's relatively new, not super new. But anything that's hitting the secondhand market, by and large, is getting rehomed very, very quickly. She's newer, yeah. So it takes time, right? For because people, they sell the book, and then the book has to filter down to the secondhand market, and sometimes that takes a little while because books, they sit on the shelf. So I personally, I don't find a lot of new books a lot because people don't rehome those books right away. First, people start to trade them because books are hella expensive when you buy them new, right? Aren't they like $35 a new book now or something? I haven't bought a new book at a retail location. I've bought books from used bookstores and stuff like that. I do try to shop local. Not that I won't go to a chain. If the chain's the only one that's got it, you know what I'm saying? Can we add Kristin? Oh yeah, Kristin Hannah is really good. I have a gal that I work with locally. She's a condo community manager in kind of our nicer area, and I actually have 1 or 2 Kristin Hannah books set to the side for her because she really likes Kristin Hannah in that kind of section of authors. And so I feel like she brought me like 12 full boxes of books that had like Maya Angelou in it and Toni Morrison hardcovers and just like really nice stuff. And I'm like trading her like 2 Kristin Hannah novels. So like, it's an everybody wins situation because she's, she knows that the books aren't going to get thrown away. She was just left to them by someone in the condo and she's getting books out of it. So to her, it's like a super win. Obviously it's a super win. So I like winning. I like when everybody wins. So anyway, let's just jump into Kristin Hannah. I think that's a really good place to go. Did I just write this in the wrong place? What's that? Why do I have all this orphan data all over the place? Was I smoking something? Or I see, a lot of times I'll get distracted. All right, Kristin Hannah. And we'll look up her BOLOs too. Kristin Hannah. So we'll look first in the book. And also when you're doing data, always make sure you're using the same filters. So you're comparing apples to apples data. All right, so she has got 4,621 listings in this category. Let's go to the other one real quick. And then we'll add these. Not very many over here. The newer authors generally aren't going to be in the collectible category. Usually you're just going to find what you're seeing here, like anything that's signed, maybe like a first. What is this? These aren't necessarily sold, so let's not even look at that. We'll look at the sold over here real quick just to see what kind of collectible stuff that's here. We'll sort this by price. All right. So that's pretty. These are pretty. These Easton presses. The Nightingale. Is that her first one? Easton presses are always so nice. Here's a UK. Is she from the UK? Is she like so like a true first of hers would be from across the pond? Not the first, but really popular. Okay. Yeah, I don't know too much about her. I know folks read the shit out of her. That I know because that's what the data says. This one I've seen this hardcover a lot. I actually sold a copy of this. Not signed. That would be rad. It's looking like her autograph books are going, 75 to 100, give or take. So let's take a look. Let's look. Here's the Easton Press. That's pretty. Nice hidden papers. There's your signature. This leather-bound edition of the Nightingale is personally signed by Kristin Hannah. She's American. Okay, cool. I mean, it's cool either way, but you know what I mean. She does great for doing mostly historical fiction. Okay, I know the one with this one. This one is like Depression-based, right? Like Depression era, I believe. I think I did read this one. Real pretty book. I read about it. I didn't read it. I'll always be very honest. Probably overly so. So I've seen hardcovers. What's this one here with the sprayed edges? Is this some sort of book box deal? Signed independent bookshop edition. Do you guys know this existed? I didn't. Inspired by courage, bound by friendship, united in hope. Women by Kristin Hannah. Tonight on Netflix. So that's pretty. Signature. First print. You guys know how to read the line, right? Lowest number on the line is the print it is generally. Here's your... So we had this discussion the other day. This is a more contemporary book. Is this sprayed edges or is this a text block? Or is it potato? I don't know. All right, that's cool. We looked at that. That's fun. We got to go back over to, let's go back over here to regular books because we need to fill out this sheet. So there really wasn't like a ton of listings over in the other categories. So we're just going to call it we'll call it 47. We'll call it 4,700. So a decent amount. Just, and kind of knowing her, just knowing how popular she is and how recent she is. Like, I don't think that she's suffering from like Jane Karen's been around for a while. I think the reason why her listings are probably a little bit lower is because she's new and probably because a lot of people aren't selling her book. They're keeping it on the shelf. And also another thing I've noticed, and we've talked about it a couple of times, is the newer books I think are getting maybe printed less because people are doing more audiobooks. That's why we're seeing prettier books. I don't know. But she's been around a while, though, I think. Anyway, let's look at her solds. So that was the active category. Let's go to solds in the overall. So look at that. That is outstanding. 42% sell through. Wow. That's good. That's really good. It's really good. She's hot. So let's look at down here. Let's write that down before I get 42% is really good. Like for reals. For realsies. I think she just took number 2. Oh, she's actually in number 5, but these are probably all, just to be clear, like, again, this database, don't take it like as gold or like a Bible or anything. It's really more of like a just kind of a comparative analysis, but it's really a snapshot in time. You know what I'm saying? So like, but I say all that to say, I think these percentages, like, they're all kind of samey. I don't know what the margin of error is, as it were, but that's really good. 42%. Let's look at her BOLOs on this side. So more Easton Press. Is the women her first one? The Great Alone. That's good. I guess these are all signed. I don't know if these are, sometimes these are goofy. Here's that independent bookshop special edition again. Handful of Heaven and If You Believe. These went nice. She's been around a long time. These aren't, these are, what are these? I didn't know she wrote these. Fawcett. These got to be like 90s, 80s, right? So she's been around forever. Handful of Heaven is okay, so this is the first one here. And maybe, I guess these went for quite a bit. I wonder if this is how it was released for the first time. Vintage first editions. That's interesting. Really don't, like, speaking in the context of like the bins or thrift stores and whatnot, a lot of your scanners, the guys that beep, 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 they don't look at the paperbacks, guys. They just, for whatever reason, they have it in their head that there's just not margin in them. And they don't understand, because not all the time, there's exceptions to every rule, but a lot of times these folks aren't book folks, and they probably don't understand that sometimes books are released for the first time as paperbacks. And if that's the case with these Kristin Hannahs, I for one was not aware that she had these paperbacks. And so my scanning eyeballs probably wouldn't have registered. Maybe I would have because she's so popular, but now that I know that they exist, it'll be easier for me to kind of go in there and grab them. So that was good. That's exactly why we do this, is to get this kind of information. So when we're out there looking, we know, right? As we're scanning those book spines, that little speed bump in your brain will go, I know this, and I don't know why. Maybe that long-haired, weird brown guy was talking about it one morning. And of course you can whip out your phone, look it up real quick, confirm, or just pick it up, if it's cheap enough. So here's another one. Is this paperback? Look at this. This sold for $65, and it's a paperback. That's what I'm seeing, right? And these are in the sold category. So this money is actually exchanged hands. And it's not even a first print. Look at that. Oh my God. Oh, first edition. There you go. 1990s. Early 90s. I had me neither. This is exactly why we do this show, because you don't know what you don't know. And that's all right. It's an adventure. I have mountains of paperbacks. I'm going to go through all of my paper. No, I'm kidding. But I probably will now, because there's a good chance that, because the way that I source books, they're all a lot of times from basements. So it's a lot of times it's not picked through. So I'll have to take a look. So cool. We learned something today. So these are more contemporary paperbacks I can see. So we won't necessarily look at that. I might do like a little TikTok or a little YouTube video about this little bit of information, like in a condensed form. Just that way somebody doesn't have to watch like the whole hour that we're live just for like maybe to get this nugget. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, what else we got in here? Is she real book talky? Is she? And please forgive my ignorance. When I see the phrase book talk being used, I usually see it being used in the context of like dark romance, and stuff like that. But is that a stereotype that I shouldn't have? And because it seems like she writes more historical stuff. Somebody just told me, or maybe she does. Same with the most. Okay. Yeah. So I don't want to be like, I want to make sure I'm using the right terms to convey what I mean. And sometimes I use like talkie books to describe like the dark romance category, or even romantasy specifically. But I think that might be a limiting definition I have in my brain. I'm starting to wonder. So look at this, man. Look at this, $45. And you say this is her first one, right? I mean, I would say that's not in super good condition. I mean, it's a reader copy, but special value. Oh my gosh. I can't not look at these now. Cause a lot of times, I'm not going to lie, I see kind of like a discount book like that. And I just, I assume it's it's been printed. I know, right? Look at that shit. Oh, it's so fun. What else do we got here? We'll go through here. She's really okay. That's the end of it. So cool. All right. We learned a little something. What's this here? Handful of Heaven. This is $52. Oh, it's the same one in better condition. Look at that shit. I love this song. I had no friggin' idea. Faucet too. I'll be on the lookout for that today. So again, like going back to the whole reason why we do this is here's another mass market paperback for $64 friggin' dollars. Look at that shit. Scanners don't generally go for the paperbacks, guys. So one eye. Obviously, there's a lot more than just this, but like Stephen King's Rage is a $3,500 paperback that they'd missed. The Bachman novels they miss all the time. A lot of the Plume, anything published by Plume, generally the publisher is generally worth picking up. Horror paperbacks. Of course, you have the paperbacks from hell. We could do a whole show on just like collectible paperbacks. And then of course like R.L. Stine and all that stuff. So cool. We learned something neat. That's neat. Let's go up here. Get rid of that. And let's sort. We'll sort Z to A. I am going to make this sheet available to you guys. I'm going to make it a little prettier. And then on YouTube, what I'll do is I'll put the link to the sheet inside the comments of one of the YouTube videos. So we are, and like I said before, we're putting all these on YouTube now. And I'm trying to do other content too. It'll probably take me a while to find a groove and kind of figure out exactly what people are wanting to see and what exactly I can offer. But we'll get there. Any other authors? I'll be checking her out. Yeah. Do one. Which one? Do one. Let's do one show. What is your YouTube channel? It'll be Steve the Book Guy. I'll bring it up right quick. I'm Steve the Book Guy on all the platforms. Very consistent. Here, I've only got 41 subscribers. We're getting there. And here's actually this is the first show, the first time we did this. Here's the second time we did this. And then I've got the third episodes in there. But I am trying to create more content. You can see I've got absolutely no traction, but that's all right. The BOLO thing I think is really cool. I think people will really dig that. I also want to talk about like disability advocacy and stuff like that, because that's how I ended up here in my basement. And I think that's a good story. And plus, that story kind of gives other people permission to kind of think outside the box, to kind of tackle lifestyle issues. You know what I'm saying? And then we're going to really start hitting we're going to do like lists all the time of the different collectible books and all that stuff. So follow me on there. Absolutely give me ideas for content. Like I actually have I like this one here. You're saying do a video collectible books. Oh, Shadrach, my absolute pleasure. I'm a rising tides raise all ships type of dude, and the kind of whole mantra of the brand is like no book left behind. And so this is kind of a way to kind of equip folks to go out there and make sure at least the great books, the collectible books, the books that all books should be saved. Let me be clear, but definitely the thought of a Lord of the Rings or even now a Kristin Hannah mass market paperback hitting the trash saddens my heart. Actually, speaking of which, we need to do that. Let's do that. Kristin Hannah mass market paperback collectability. Then we'll do a banned book show. That is kind of my jam. That's how I really got started, like being known locally as the book guy. The story there, I won't tell the whole story, but they banned The Bluest Eye by Toni Morrison. in my local area, and it pissed me off. And I wrote I read it real fast because I hadn't read it yet. I just was pissed off that they banned a book. I didn't even know what the book was about. It just set me off. I've got triggered. But I used that energy for a good thing. I end up, I read the book. It's a short, day and a half, whatever. And then I wrote and kind of just broke it down for parents so they could have like a fair, objective look. And there's one or two scenes in the book that are a little rough, and I pointed that out. But then I also explained why they're relevant and why they're appropriate for, a high school, a very mature middle-aged or a high school, definitely high school. Because I equated what was happening in the book to there's people that in real life that deal with the things that she is outlining in that book. And how dare we take a tool, like a Batman utility belt. That book is for certain people, and those people need to be seen, because one of the things that are so great about books is sometimes they can give you a voice in a context of an understanding that you wouldn't otherwise have had, because maybe you don't have adults in your life or whatever, which is kind of what my deal was. Everything I've learned about anything, I learned from a book. You know what I'm saying? So yeah. I mean, there's a line and that's the other thing. People sometimes get me misunderstood. I'm for reviewing. I fully believe there shouldn't. I don't. It's school versus public library and stuff like that. I don't necessarily think mine. I don't know. It's a slippery slope, and I hate to use that fallacy, but I'm fine with reviewing books, because sometimes, maybe someone didn't do their due diligence and maybe it is really inappropriate. Maybe it was specifically written for adults and it ended up in a kid so there should be reviews, but the reviews should be done by educators. Now, and I know you guys know this. I'm absolutely preaching to the choir, and I'm being slightly pedantic because I know all of you likely agree. But when the book is reviewed, it shouldn't be reviewed by the libs of TikTok or whatever the fuck those people are, or Facebook comments, or it should be, or even the parents should have input. But ultimately, speaking as a parent of 3, I have to understand my own limitations. Yes, I do get to decide the path, or not even necessarily, because my kids have autonomy too, right? I get to guide their path at best. Right? Parents, force your kid to do something. My kids, the more I would force my children to do something, the more likely they ain't going to do it. So that ain't, so you either want to be right or you want to get it done. So, plus I don't want to break a kid's spirit. If they get all spicy, that's good for them in the long term. But you got to teach them how to channel that and know when it's appropriate, not break it. Anyway, I'm on a tangent. So, and speaking of the Bible, there's some gnarly shit in the Bible. Like one lady in the Old Testament, took that king's dude and spiked it on a spike thing while he was sleeping. There's rape, incest, murder, genocide. The Bible's rough. I've read it. I've read the whole damn thing. In the New Testament, they rotted some guy on the stage, like he was lying about some business transaction. And this is New Testament, God rotted the guy on stage. Imagine that in your brain. Imagine you were there in the scene, in the crowd. This guy goes up there and he talks shit or whatever, and he rots on stage in real time, like some Indiana Jones bullshit, So Cassie says, kids will do exactly what you don't want them to. Accurate. So the trick is to make them understand that it is them that should want to do the thing that you're suggesting. That's the trick. And that doesn't always work either. Because sometimes they just don't believe you. And then they put their hand in the fire and then they go, ow. And then you have to fight every instinct in the world going, because you want to build the relationship with the kid. Anyway, it's hard not to be petty sometimes. Yeah, Lori, but it's blasphemy if that gets banned. Yeah, I'm not sure. And again, I know absolutely wonderful Christian people that are not douchebags. I'm talking about a specific subset of Christianity that has gone all Pharisee. Do you know what I mean? Jesus would not approve. The Jesus in the Bible would not approve. The Jesus in the Bible is a badass. In Revelation, one of my favorite scriptures is he's going to come back with his robes dripped in blood. That is not a pacifist, friends. and then also another I always think of it in scenes, right? Because I used to make anyway. The my other favorite scene is when he, the whole turn your cheek. Like, really think about how that would play out in real life. Like, if I'm getting smacked in my face, some guy smacks me, and I turn back to him and I say, "Do the other one." That's BAMF. You know what I'm saying? Anyway. And this dude was like, he was like a blue collar carpenter guy. Like, you know what I'm saying? He wasn't like a wilting flower. He was a blue collar carpenter with years and years of physical training. He could probably smack a few people. Just saying. Anyway, the Bible is fun when you read it like for itself. Sometimes the interpretations and how it's used to manipulate is not always the best. But Proverbs is full of cool shit. Like, from out of the heart, the mouth speaks. That's good. Hosea 4:6, my people perish for lack of vision. I like that one. With that, even though that's not Proverbs. From out of the heart, the mouth speaks, and those who love it will eat its anyway, there's good stuff. Did he do Bible? Sure. I think nothing more than 100 years old should ever be banned. This is history. No, yeah, I can't. I'm sure there is a conceivable reason to remove a book from public, but I have not really been presented with one that would convince me. I'm trying to think of any reason why I would, because sometimes you don't want to just dismiss it out of hand, like say something like The Art of Power. Right. Do you guys know this one? It's like, I think I'm saying that right. It's the one where they do the, where they teach, it's like very Machiavellian, and they basically it teaches like step by step how to be a manipulative shithead. Apparently like kids in schools were using this book and like it was going very south. So like maybe something like that, not from like a public library or something like that, but maybe from a school. So you don't get your little like gang dictator guy. I don't know. But even that, like it would restrict access. It's not like you can't just go get it off the internet. So what is even the point? But I don't know. What do you guys think about that one? Do you guys know what book I'm talking about? I think it's called The Art of Power. Yeah, not this one. Am I crazy? I might be crazy. I might be thinking of a different one. Yeah, is it this one? No. No, let me use ChatGPT real quick. The book called, I think, The Art of Power. It's like, or maybe Irrefutable. I don't know. I think that's a Maxwell book. Or something. Been banned. It's basically a handbook on how to be, and I won't spell this right, don't judge me, a Machiavellian asshole. Yeah, I'm sure there's another I in there somewhere. What is that book, and why was it ultimately challenged? This is good knowledge too. I always pick up banned books, and a lot of times I try to just rehome them for $1. I want to try to get as many copies as those things out there. Maybe not this one. I don't like this one so much. This is 48 Laws of Power. Here, while that fills out, let's see what collectible ones are. Robert Greene, 48 Laws of Power. Robert Greene. Yeah, it's this one. Have you guys heard of this one? Actually, let me do this. Let me go to Soul down here on the side. Yeah, look at that. So this is a BOLO, so I'm glad we're looking it up. If you can find this in a first edition and a hardcover, it's quite expensive. It is banned. It's been challenged a ton. Like, I think all knowledge is worth having, but books like this can be dangerous, But it's not like the information isn't already out there. Let me kind of give you more context. I'll just read this here. You're likely thinking of The 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene. It's a best-selling self-help book published in 1998, known for its cold, strategic take on power dynamics. Very Machiavellian. Greene distills historical examples ranging from emperors to con artists into 48 laws for gaining, wielding, and defending power. It's often described as Machiavellian, manipulative, and amoral. And it has strong following among business people, entertainers, and politicians. Ruthless people. Not my favorite. Why was it challenged or banned? Prisons. The book has been banned in many U.S. prisons, including in California and Utah. Officials argue that it poses a security risk, claiming it can encourage manipulation, exploitation, and control tactics among inmates. Criticism. Criticism says critics say it promotes amoral behavior and glorifies deceit, making it controversial in schools and libraries as well. Despite, or maybe because of the controversy, it's hugely influential and polarizing. Are there any examples? And of course, take everything AI says with a grain of salt. If it's, AI is, it's good, but it only goes so far. Are there any examples in schools of where this book became a problem? So yeah, so like in a book like this, like I could see, I'm more kind of like gray and like maybe we don't have this one everywhere. Maybe we don't, because again, you don't know what you don't know, and when you have it everywhere, then these people become aware, and then all of a sudden you're dealing with a society of amoral fuckheads that you have to be equipped to fight, and we're already there. This would make it worse. But again, it's not like folks don't have access to this, so like an argument could be made like, what's the point? But again, like as a person who sells books, like having it accessible is important. Like in my antique mall booth, just a kind of a little bit of human nature, I'll have like coffee table books that have been in there for 6 months, 12 months, a long time, down at the bottom, where they put the cheap cereal, as it were, in the stores, and nobody will ever look at it. It'll sit there. It could be the most interesting book in the world. But the moment I take the book out from the bottom and I put it on the top shelf, displayed cover front, usually gone within a week. So like there is a psychological impact of having a book where people can easily access it because they become aware of it, and that will increase. So there would be, so just take that into the conversation from a book seller point of view. Definitely need to read this book. Sounds like a MAGA Bible. Yeah, kind of. It's a little sociopathic. Like I think to be able to fully, I've not read it fully, but I've glanced through it a couple of times. I found not the hardcover, unfortunately, but I have found paperback copies of it. You have to be a little sociopathic to kind of follow through in a lot of these things. Like you really have to not care about people, and it kind of grosses me out a little bit. And but having said that, like knowing that there's people out there that whether they can articulate what they're doing or why they're doing it into, something as consumable as 48 laws. People do the things in this book, regardless of whether or not they can articulate it. You understand what I'm saying? So as a person that finds this behavior disgusting, it is, I think, worthwhile for me to read the book to be better equipped to deal with those people. Do you know what I'm saying? Because if I can more intimately understand how their brain works, I could see it coming. And if I can see it coming, you ain't gonna get it over on me. You know what I'm saying? So all knowledge is worth having. There's a flip side to every coin. So like, I don't know. I think probably the fundamental issue is human nature. Let's fix that, and then all of these other things will take care of itself. So, but yeah, interesting conversation. But let's look at the BOLOs real quick. So the people that buy this are like, a CEO or like a business person. They'll buy a nice one and then they'll display it, as a statement. So imagine you go into like an interview and this fucking book is sitting behind your new boss's desk. Not great. Maybe don't take that job. Or better yet, After you find out why he has that book, and if you've determined that he's a dickhead, mess with him. But that's just me. I like to poke the tiger. But how often do we say that, like, what's on your bookshelf communicates about you? Now, what it communicates, I don't know, but it's communicating. You know what I'm saying? You can either have this book because you're like me and you hate people that follow this book and you want to make sure that no one's coming into your office is like this and appreciates it. Because, say I'm the interviewee or the interviewer, I have this on my desk. Some guy sits in my chair, across from me for an interview and he goes, "Oh man, I love that book. I do that shit every day." Get out. You ain't for me. You ain't for the company. You're done. Get out. You can't love this book and do the things in it. Get out. Do you know what I'm saying? Oh my God, that's gross, Hawkby. So words matter. That really upsets me a little bit. I didn't know that. Where were you? Where do you find that stat? I would love to kind of glance through there. That does not bode well for society, for the viewers at home, because you can't see the chat. Hawkby just said he just looked, and the 48 Laws of Power is the 5th top audiobook in the USA as of December 2024. This does not bode well for any of us, friend. Because something tells me they're probably more of the former type and not the latter type that would use it for good. But it is a BOLO, so it is a book, and I would sell it. I would make it available if I found one, regardless of how I feel. We're gonna talk about one more book in this vein, and then I do have to get ready to go to the bins. Have you guys heard of this book? Here's another one. I actually have a copy of this book. It's sitting on the shelf. I don't have this one. Oh, and that's something else. Hold on. Oh, they may not even have it on here. It might be banned. Oh, yeah, they may have banned the original one. Oh, no, this is it. This is it. You have a copy of this one, too? Yeah. I actually was at an auction and bidding on books. This was, there was a person bidding, and I may have judged this person harshly. And I don't want to, be that guy necessarily. Just something about him made, just off. And he was bidding up like really, really high. And I beat him just so he couldn't have it. And again, it was probably a stupid move, but whatever. Oh, that's actually one of mine. I sold this. This is me. So anyway, if you don't know what the Anarchist Cookbook is, it's, continuing the conversation of whether or not a book should be made accessible, in a variety of different places. This is a book that kind of teaches you how to make like pipe bombs and all sorts of like go against the state stuff, like how to evade surveillance and all of these different things. You won't go to the dark side? No, I don't think you will. But again, there's a couple of art here. Can I see it from here? Let me go grab it real. How much time do I got? I'm going to show it to you real quick, and I've got to go. So here it is. This is Banned to Hell. The back says, read this book, but keep in mind that the topics written about here are illegal and can constitute a threat. Also, more importantly, almost all of the recipes are dangerous, especially to the individual who plays around with them without knowing what he is doing. Use care, caution, and common sense. This book is not for children or morons. You have my attention, sir. I'll read the back here and then we'll wrap it up. The Anarchist Cookbook will shock, it will disturb, it will provoke. It places in historical perspective an era when turn on, burn down, blow up are revolutionary slogans of the day. This book is not written for the members of fringe political groups such as the Weathermen or the Minutemen. Those radical groups don't need this book. They already know everything that's in here. If the real people of America, the silent majority, are going to survive, they must educate themselves. And that is the purpose of this book. In what the author considers a survival guide, there is explicit information on the uses and effects of drugs ranging from pot to heroin to peanuts, detailed advice concerning electronics, sabotage and surveillance, and data on everything from bugs to scramblers. So, you know, if you want to burn it down, this is a good place to start. I wonder how relevant the information in it is, you know, with technology being, as you know, going much further, but some of that stuff will still be relevant. You know what I'm saying? Lori, all the great words that made me want to read it. I know, right? It was the Spotify Wrapped I pulled from USA Today for okay, cool. I'll check that out. Thank you. Let me, I'm going to copy your comment here so I can look that up. I love data. I'm a nerd. I'll leave that in there for now. So guys, that is going to wrap it up for me. I really appreciate, oh wow, you guys picked up a lot of stuff. I really, really appreciate it, guys. I will get this out today. It'll be this afternoon. I'm going to the bins here in just a second. Yep. I still got time. Yeah, that's all I've got. I never know how to end these. We do have a couple of shows coming up. We just did that one. We're having a big antique show on, I think, Friday. And then we're also going to do these pop-ups because I'm going to start moving all the listings I have from eBay over to Whatnot. And then I'm just going to spend all day on Whatnot. So, yeah. Oh, I love the bins too. It's so super, super fun. Cassie, pipe bomb recipes don't change. Amen. So, you know, if shit goes to hell in America and you know, won't go down without a fight, friends. I don't know what to tell you. So you have to read what you don't agree with so you can have that knowledge to argue with. I absolutely agree. I'll leave a General Mark Milley, who, you know, however many star general he is, very educated man. He said in a Senate hearing that he reads things like Mao's Red Book. He reads Mein Kampf. He wrote, you know, the Karl Marx's, you know, Communist Manifesto and all of that stuff. And he says that he reads it for the exact reason you stated. It's because if he's supposed to defend America from these threats, he needs to be informed on the threats. And if he needs to defend us from China, he needs to understand how China became China, right? And how, because everything has a preceding incident, right? For, you know, and Mao was absolutely a huge part of that society and where it is today. So as a general in the United States Army, it was incumbent on him to become educated, just like any general throughout history. So, this is the exact reason we keep bioweapons. Jeez. So on that note, I do have to jet. I am heading out to the bins. I will see you guys tomorrow for lunch. We are actually, I didn't show you this one. We're going to do this. It's going to be the same kind of vibe, only I will have the top-down camera on, and we're just going to look at old, like nonfiction books. I'll have all the books in the buy now, super cheap, coupon active, all that stuff. You guys can look at it at your convenience. And then we'll flip through cool shit. I missed doing that. And we'll still do the auctions on like Friday and Saturday night and stuff and you know, different vibe. But during the day, we're going to do the little more chill and relaxed shows. And new rewards start tomorrow. If I go live tomorrow and I haven't set my awards, please yell at me and I'll stop the show, start them, and then restart the show. But I'm going to try not to forget. I'm going to write myself a note. We'll put it right here. Restart rewards. The beginning of this season, Beardman had to yell at me like 3 times. He did. He was like, dude. And I was like, sorry. He was right. You know, I need to get those started like day one. Got to get the game going, right? But anyway, guys, that's it. I'll see you guys soon. Should we raid somebody? Do we have enough people to raid? Yeah, we got 13 people in here. Holy smokes. I really appreciate you guys hanging out with me. I wanted to do this early in the morning before like most of the shows got started so there wouldn't be like FOMO and stuff. But Ben Sale, not alive. I don't want to send you to... Oh, I'm the only one live. That's why. I'm your only choice. No, so I won't raid anybody because nobody's live. So I will bid you guys farewell, and I will hopefully find some really good goodies at the bins, and you know, we'll come back and we'll talk about that. So how do I turn it off without raiding somebody? I always raid somebody. Anyway, see you guys.